I remember Mama lighting the menorah, and covering her head she'd start to pray. Papa started reading from the Torah. Mama, smiling down on me, would say, may your days and nights be a feast of lights, the eternal flame, may it glow in you, and the Holy One, may he know in you only love. May the light of peace shine and never cease, may the glow of wisdom illumine you, may you never hate, though it's human too, may you have love. May you go through life with your head up in the sky, may you never walk in shame, in sight of the light of the one who has no name. This I wish, this I wish, this I wish for you. May your days and nights be a feast of lights, have a warmth for all of humanity, for without it life is but vanity, may you have love. May you have faith, and may you have strength, and may the Lord grant your life will have length. May it be sweet yet strong. May your days and nights be a feast of lights, your whole life
Oh, thank you so much, Lainey and Andrew. Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Petra, Senior Minister here, Spiritual Director here at the Center for Spiritual Living. And, these are glorious days as we travel through the holidays. And there is so much to celebrate. And yet we are always celebrating in the midst of the winter darkness. And often we find ourselves celebrating in the midst of the turmoil of life around us. And you'll notice as we celebrate all of these holy days, starting with Advent last week, Hanukkah this week, although of course we know that it starts on Tuesday. We celebrate the solstice next week. Then we have the Christian story on Christmas Eve, and we round it out with Kwanzaa. And in each case, we light candles. We light candles, and we use the symbol of the flame to remind us of some deep and profound spiritual truths. So as we celebrate Hanukkah today and participate in the observance of that, we have Rabbi Jonathan Schick here with us to celebrate with us and to share with us. He's going to talk a little bit about Hanukkah and about the story and share with you a little bit about Judaism. And we're going to light the menorah and say some and share with the prayers. And then after we've concluded, at some point at the end, we're going to hang the mezuzahs on our doors. We've hung a mezuzah on the first door at the first service, and we'll hang the other two mezuzahs during this service, and we'll share with you a little bit about them. But I also want to acknowledge that these mezuzahs were donated to us by Susan Schwartz. So Susan, will you stand up and let us say thank you to you? So very grateful. Very grateful. And I know that we have many people from our community that have Jewish roots, just as we have people who have Christian roots, who have roots in no spirituality at all. And we continually remind ourselves that we know that every path is a path to God. And we can learn something from every path. And when we really see how each path is a path to God, we begin to heal our sense of separation. And we see through our differences to the truth that lies between our souls, that we are all made in the image and likeness of the divine. So we're going to bring Rabbi Jonathan Schick forward. Thank you so much.
I've been called many things before, but not reverend. Well, which reminds me of, I told a joke earlier today. My speech today will actually be very different than the morning one. So because of a special guest here, Susan, who I'm going to be a little bit more personal and more. The old joke goes that, there's always the rabbi, the priest, who walk into a bar, right? There's always that one. But with that you've heard. This one you probably haven't heard. So there's a Frenchman, a German, and a Jew who are walking through the desert. They're lost. They're all hungry, tired, and thirsty. And at one point, the Frenchman says, "Oh, I'm so tired and thirsty. I must have a nice glass of red wine." And they walk on a few more minutes further, and then the German says, "I'm so tired and thirsty. I must have a nice cold glass of German beer." And then a few minutes later, the Jew stops and says, "Oh, I'm so tired and thirsty. I must have diabetes." Thank you very much. It's been really nice. Yeah, no, okay. My other calling. Thank you for inviting me here, Dr. Petra. So speaking on that theme of, everything's such a burden for the Jew, right? Well, that comes from someplace. It comes from many, many thousands of years of persecution. Most of the time, the persecution was based on their own physical survival, but oftentimes it was based on their spiritual survival. I was talking to Matt. Is he here, the drummer? Where's Matt? On break. Okay, well, you can tell him that I referenced him. But we were talking to him, and he said he went to Hebrew school back in New Jersey many eons ago, and he said there was a lot of darkness. And the truth is, from the ashes of the Holocaust, most American Jews were brought up with a sense of what Judaism wasn't, as opposed to what Judaism is, in the sense of it being more about just surviving versus the spirituality that Judaism really, really is about and champions. So, and you have to understand that many, many years we spent those times just surviving. And, Hanukkah, the story of Hanukkah is one of those stories. At the time of the Hanukkah miracle, the Syrian Greek army, actually they were not trying to physically annihilate the Jews, they were trying to spiritually annihilate them by forcing them to convert and accept it wasn't really any religion, but it was the absence of religion and the Hellenization of their practices. Most Jews capitulated. Most Jews, which is really the story of Judaism, there's really only a minority of Jews that really, but there was a tiny band of misfits, if you will, but there was a tiny band of misfits, if you will, but there was a tiny band of misfits, if you will, but there was a tiny band of misfits, if you will, or people who really felt more steadfast in their observance, and they said, no, we want to keep to physically live but not spiritually live is not living. So they fought back, and two miracles really took place at the time. One was the miracle of the lights, where they found one flask after the temple. In Jerusalem, if you've ever been, the Western Wall is the last remaining wall of the ancient temple, Beit HaMikdash. They found one flask of oil left that was enough to really light the candles for only one day, but it was miraculously lit for 8 days. And there was another miracle, really, which was the fact that this small group of Jews refused to capitulate and actually fought back the Syrian Greek army and were able to actually remain independent and continue on their practices in both the temple and in other, throughout the areas of the myriad of Jewish life. So that's Hanukkah. And we'll light those candles at the end of this little talk. But it's been throughout the ages. The Jews struggle to find acceptance both on the national level, but also among themselves. You know, many times the Jews have been persecuted for the one thing that people completely don't realize what Judaism is about. Judaism is often accused of being elitist, of being the chosen people, so therefore, you know, the others can't have. And thus, they were given choices, either believe in my God by many of the main religions of today, whether it be the Crusades or whether it be through the Almohads, the various, and today we have today in Israel. The battle is over the spirit. The battle is over, you're saying you're the chosen people, we're the chosen people. And if you don't believe in my version of my religion, then you will die, you will have no heaven, you will have no future. Whereas Judaism says the exact opposite. Yes, it's true the Jews are the chosen people. Jews are the light to the nations. But why have you ever noticed that Jews don't go out and actively convert others? We don't, because we believe that all humankind, all human beings have a place at the table. It's true the Jews may have more rituals, may have more obligations to their God, but it's the same God. And every human being, Jew or non-Jew, has a relationship with God. We believe that every non-Jew has 7 Noahide laws going back all the way to Noah that are the ones that one can keep and also achieve heaven. So the battle's been over heaven. Because we're driving down I-35 and you see the only way, if I don't believe in X, Y, Z, I'm damned. But I'm living a moral life, an ethical life. How could that be? Judaism believes that everyone has a place at the table and everyone can have that connection to God and the connection to heaven. All by being ethical and living a meaningful life, including belief in God. So, unfortunately, though, as I mentioned in the beginning, many Jews who came post-Holocaust to America, those ideas were lost, and it became a Judaism of what isn't as opposed to what is. And it was a matter of just surviving as opposed to spirituality. So, in fact, on a personal note, and I'll share because I do have someone who truly a dear friend of mine, Susan, who's here in the audience. You know, my own personal journey, I began as a rabbi and head of school of I founded 2 Jewish schools because I wanted to continue that spark for our Jewish youth. And then about 10 years ago, I began actually expanding my, so to speak, ministry, if you will, to reach out to all Jews and non-Jews by the work that I do in the space of nonprofit organizations, because nonprofits are ones, such as this one, that do so much for our community. And so I am a advisor, if you will, for the leaders of nonprofits throughout Dallas and the country. And I do that because I feel that's part of my role as a Jew, as a light to the nations. And because we all really, and as Dr. Peter mentioned earlier today, we're part of a Judeo-Christian culture. And I think it's very important to recognize that the Jewish perspective is not one of elitism or exclusivity, but one of inclusion and one of being a light to the nations that is a big, big tent. So, getting back to Hanukkah, Hanukkah again was a time where the Jews, a few of them responded, just like in the times that post the Holocaust, there were very few Jews left, but they responded and they built up communities, and there are many who do recognize today that it's not just, Judaism is not just about what it isn't, but what it is, and surviving without spirituality is really not surviving. So that spiritual light continued due to the days of Hanukkah. One of the concepts in Judaism is that Hanukkah, the time is a continuum in Judaism, and therefore the 25th of Kislev, which is the Hebrew month that Hanukkah falls out on, which ends up being, again, that's another joke, all the Jewish holidays are early or late, they're never on time. The reason for that is because we go according to the lunar calendar, and we go according to the moon, and there's the sun, so there's an 11-day and change gap every year. So this year, Hanukkah turns out like on Tuesday night, December 17th. Sometimes it's flat right in the middle of Christmas. Sometimes, like last year, an anomaly, it was right on Thanksgiving. So basically, but it generally comes out in the winter because we have leap years every so often and stuff like that. So today, or in a few days, the actual holiday of Hanukkah will begin on Tuesday night, and that spiritual infusion of light in the middle of the bleak winter, in the middle of the darkness, is the time that we can reconnect to that spiritual light on the Festival of Lights. And by lighting the menorah and lighting the candles, we can reconnect to the same experience those Hasmoneans, those Maccabees had so many years ago when they reconnected with their heritage. And it's something that all of us can, Jew and non-Jew, can all participate and connect to this special infusion of light that is coming up in a few days. Thank you for that. Yeah. So I will say the blessing. There are 3 blessings in the first night of Hanukkah. The first blessing is a blessing about the actual lighting of the lights. The second blessing is about the actual miracles that took place. And in fact, the verbiage of the blessing is just as I described, Bayamim hahem bazman hazeh, which means in those days at this time. So it's not just a remembrance of years past, like, oh, so many years ago, the Jews lit the lights and etc., and it's something to remember. But it's actually not just a remembrance, it's at this time too, because the time's like a circle and it comes around every year at this time. The third blessing is the blessing which is recited on the first night of Hanukkah only, which is the one of renewal. That is the new mitzvah. It's a new ritual that happens every year, so we say that special too. So I'll say all 3 for you, and you can answer amen or amen after each blessing, and I'll pause for each one. And then really every night of Hanukkah we light 1 and then 2 and then 3, but here we're going to light all 8. As it's done on the 8th night, which is starting from 8 going down to 1. So we will go ahead and do that, and please join in if you'd like. Baruch atah Adoshem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adoshem Elokeinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavoseinu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adoshem Elokeinu melech haolam shehechiyanu v'kiyumanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Ma'osor Yeshua si lechana elishabeach tikon beis tefilasi v'sham todan izabeach lies tachin matbeach mitzar hamnameach azegmor v'shir mizmor Chanukah HaMizbeach, Azegmor V'shir Mizbar, Chanukah HaMizbeach. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, this candle's making me just a little bit nervous, this candle right here. Thanks for being here today. You know, it's an interesting question to ask oneself. Would we be living our faith tradition, walking our spiritual path with such conviction that we could be persecuted for it? Could someone tell what our faith tradition is? Could someone see what our belief in the divine is, what our belief in God is? Could they recognize that we have a certain way in which we choose to walk a spiritual path? It's an interesting question to ask ourselves. And how easy it is to acquiesce, to be quiet, to seek not to offend, to seek to fit in, to seek to be normal, popular, like all those other people out there. And we find that at every level, don't we? Whether it's the way that we behave at work or the way that we behaved when we were kids, trying to be part of the cool crowd, or just having to live with the fact that maybe we were just a little bit different. We thought a little bit differently. We marched to our own drummer. And so it's a really profound thing to think about as we hear these stories and Rabbi Jonathan speaking about that ongoing persecution that was really about, you're different. Why are you different? I don't like it that you're different. You should be the same as me. And how wonderful it is that we have an example of a people who maybe defended themselves, but didn't require that of anybody else. Didn't require people to convert or to become like they are. And yet, displaying, presenting, celebrating the rituals and keeping them alive. And so I know that we have a tendency to inflict a lot of rituals upon you this time of year. Some of you love that. Some of you are like, are we really going to do this again? Really? Didn't we do it last year and the year before that and the year before that and the year before that? Yes, that's part of the turning of the seasons and the rituals that come with them that allow us to mark, where are we? How far have we come? We could look back and see, have we gotten deeper in our own spiritual growth? Have we deepened our relationship with God? Have we discovered something more profound about life? And the turning of the seasons, it's not like we say to the trees, oh, God, well, there's those fall leaves again. Oh, they've fallen on the ground again, just like they always do. Oh, we're having that same old spring. Those same old flowers, they're blooming. Right? We don't say that. We think, wow, look at that. Oh, there's something happening. There's something, there's something about that, the rhythm of the rituals. There you go. There's a message from God in there, surely. Surely. One of the things, as Rabbi Jonathan said, that we forget sometimes that we live in a Judeo-Christian culture, and that our roots run deep in that. And even in the Science of Mind here at the Center for Spiritual Living, we understand that every faith tradition brings something profound to the spiritual evolution of humanity. And we seek to discover those things and to honor them and celebrate them and see what we ourselves learn from them. And so in Judaism, one of the profound gifts that we have is all the way from what we might, if we were raised Christian, call the Old Testament, which is, of course, the Hebrew Bible, in the original stories in Genesis. What did God say? Let there be light. Let there be this. Let there be that. Let there be something else. And then each time, what did God claim? It is good. It is good. And that this physical creation, this extraordinary place that we have to share and grow and learn in, is actually good. This notion of original blessing is profound when we recognize that this is the place of incarnation. And that as the light that we are here to bring our light into this incarnation and to express it. And the profound prayer, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one." God is one God. The Jewish people were the first people to really bring that message forward. God is one. There's one. And when we hang the mezuzahs, we're going to hang these on our doors. There's inside here is the scroll, which is the mezuzah, and then there's the outer covering, which we're going to actually hang on that. And so that every time we walk through these doors, not only do we recognize that there's a blessing there, but it's an affirmation of this oneness. One God. Not a duality, not a trinity, not a polytheistic, one God. And that is so deeply embedded in the Jewish tradition that has come through all to us today. And what a profound reminder that we're all made in the image and likeness of that God. And so as we light the candles, we light them in all the various rituals during the course of this holiday season. We are encouraging ourselves to see all these things new, to be renewed in them, and to find a deeper and a more expanded way to be with it in our own lives. So we're going to take our mezuzahs to the back, and then Rabbi Jonathan is going to say the prayer, and then we're going to speak the prayer from back there. You're welcome to turn around, or you can just sit and listen as we come back here to do this hanging of the mezuzah. Because these doors open the way they do, unfortunately, it's a little awkward, but we're gonna have to be on the outside of the door. The mezuzah goes on the right as you enter. Rabbi Jonathan, is there something else that you would like to say about our mezuzahs or the mezuzah before we hang it up?
Well, yeah, as Dr. Petra said, the scroll inside is a parchment that has, first of all, God's name on it. The shin, the Hebrew letter shin, as you see on the outer box, is the first of the letter of Shaddai, which is one of God's names. The actual words inside the parchment are the words that there's a paragraph in the Bible in Deuteronomy about, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one," the oneness that we all share. And as Dr. Petra let me know of that, the spiritual community that you're in, the Center for Spiritual Living, is one of one God and all belief in the oneness of God, that this is something that you all can embrace and all can participate in. By kissing the mezuzah as you walk in, it represents your belief in the oneness of God. So that is something that you all can have a part in.
All right, so I'm going to start with this one right here.
I'm going to have Susan also join in.
Susan, you want to come join us? Sure, absolutely. Come over here. So we're going to put it up here. And Susan, I'm actually going to give it to you to hold. And then Rabbi is going to say it's going to go the other direction. And then he's going to put his hand over top of yours. But he's going to say the prayer, and then you guys can hang it up together. Okay?
Ready? Ready. You can all say, you can hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear him? Yeah.
I'll say amen after me, or amen. Baruch atah Adoshem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu likboa mezuzah.
Amen.
There we go. Yeah, give it a kiss.
All right, beautiful. And
Great.
so, Susan, I'm going to ask you and Rabbi Jonathan to go do that, and Reverend Vince is going to take you right over there. And while they're finishing hanging the other ones, you say the prayer once, and then you immediately hang the other mezuzahs. I asked Rabbi Jonathan for permission to hang only the one at the first service, and then to repeat the ceremony at the second. Normally, you would hang them all together, all at once. And he was gracious to allow us to make that change so that we could all participate in it and in the deep affirmation it is in our belief in the oneness. So I'll invite you to turn within with me and let us go to prayer. And so if you would just take that centering breath with me, that breath that immediately moves us into that place of oneness. That breath which is the gift of life itself that connects us with all creation. That breath which is the symbol of life that was breathed into each of us is the very presence of love and life itself. And so we simply allow ourselves to move into that place of deep understanding that God is one infinite presence and power, one life, benevolent in every way. That we live in a place that is blessed, a creation that is loved, and that we are here to share that gift of light that we are everywhere that we go. And so we stand in the midst of any turmoil, any darkness, any fear, any discord. We stand in the middle of it. And we are the light. We bring the light. And we affirm that when we do so, miracles occur. That we are simply evidencing the eternal flame that is burning constantly as the heartbeat of the universe itself. And so we simply allow that flame to become the truth of who we are. That our lives exemplify that which we believe to be true. That we live in accordance to the very faith and belief and laws that we ourselves understand. And by doing this, not only are we blessed, but our life becomes a blessing. And great good and great miracles occur. And so in this holiday season, we simply allow the rituals to reaffirm these truths. We sink more deeply into them. We share them more fully. And we simply allow ourselves to be grateful. We're grateful for all that have walked the path before us. Tens of thousands of years of light bearers. On every continent, in every country, in every faith. How grateful we are to be part of that light. So we let it be, and so it is.